Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Something very frightening is going on, I believe, across the country, but specifically in Texas now. We are getting a overpopulation of so-called Muslim communities, where these Muslim communities want to not assimilate into the United States and our own cultural ideas. What they want to do is institute Sharia law, and they want to spread the word of Islam throughout this great country of ours and really putting a kibosh on everything that we think is great. Look, our value system, when it comes from Muslims versus Christians, are very, very different. Now, I do believe there are two versions of Islam. I do believe there is a non-radical version. I have many friends that are Muslim that I do not believe embrace the terrorist ideology whatsoever. I want to make that very clear. But I also think that there's a large portion of Muslims across the globe, people here in the United States, that do embrace this idea of their way or the highway. Radical Islam. If you're not with us, we will kill you. If you're not with us, then God will send down the wrath to you. And ultimately, everyone will be under the Sharia law rule of radical Islam. I'm going to prove to you that there are many that are thinking that. And we're going to go through just how frightening this is in Texas, because what we're seeing is a whole slew of communities. McKinney, Texas, Irving, Texas, outside of Plano, Texas. And then you go into some of the rural areas of this state. You have these communities, and the way they are advertising these communities, quite frankly, is frightening as well. Again, I believe American sovereignty is at risk. We're going to talk about it. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Stinchfield 1776 is where you can find me. Before we jump into everything, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals. Look, now is the time to start thinking about protecting your portfolio with metals. We see what's happening with the stock market. We see what's happening with our national debt, $36 trillion. That is not getting cut back anytime soon, even if Elon is successful balancing the budget. So the idea of protecting your portfolio with precious metals is most certainly a good one. So many of our Rumble viewers are taking Colonial Metals up on these spectacular offers. Freegoldguide.com, freegoldguide.com. There's a way to get a lot of free silver, too, depending on how much you sign up for. I urge you to check it out. 800-458-7356 is the number. And again, you get a great guide to owning gold, freegoldguide.com/grant. Pay them a visit. I promise you, when it comes to metals, these guys are the guys you want to be with. All right, so with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be along with you. So this really is frightening. We know that when immigrants come to this country, they often flock together. You can go to any major city in America and you will see that there are Hispanic areas of town. There's Little Italy in New York. There's Chinatown in many cities. They flock together. Well, Muslim and Arabs from the Middle East are no different. And so they also will flock together. The problem with this flocking together are they are getting some radical imams that are pushing a radical ideology. And I'm not sure we want to embrace this ideology into our communities. And again, as I mentioned, you're looking at communities like McKinney, Texas, just north of Dallas. Irving, Texas, just west of Dallas. And when I mean west of Dallas, I mean by a few miles west of Dallas. Heavily populated by Muslims. And they're advertising like this.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to Epic 2.0. Epic City is more than just a neighborhood. It's a way of life. A meticulously designed community that brings Islam to the forefront. A community that blends with nature, crafted to elevate your living experience. With single-family homes, multi-family townhomes and apartments, senior living, and in the heart a mosque and a school. Parks for Eid prayer, carnivals, and community events.
But folks, it's only open to one group of people. and that's Muslims. So again, they're not trying to spread out into our communities. They're trying to create communities of their own. And then I see Raheem Kassam of the National Post go on with my buddy Steve Bannon, and he starts talking about these camps that seem to me like, well, they're frightening. What do they want to do here in America? These are Muslim camps. I don't want to call them terrorist training centers. But the fear is that that is what they would become. A little bit different than these communities we're talking about. But listen to this.
Done the research into what is called the Army of Darkness, this group that was originated in India and in Pakistan in the 1920s. The name Tablighi Jamaat, people will remember from back then, suddenly became on the tips of everyone's tongues. We actually managed to get to grips with who these people were. It's an Islamist missionary network that really operates under darkness. They really try to not cause a lot of publicity for themselves. They don't go out there into the communities and particularly evangelize. What they do is they form these kind of hardline Sharia compliant madrasas all around the Western world with the idea of Islamifying the neighborhoods, cities, and states around them.
Hang on. So you understand that the Sharia-fy these communities. Sharia law is about the most radical form of Islam there is, and it means that women have no rights whatsoever. I don't think these liberal lunatics quite understand what Sharia law is. There is no tolerance for homosexuality. Forget about transgenderism. They'll throw you off the top of a building if you're gay, all right? Now, as a woman, you could have multiple. You could be a concubine. You could be a slave. You could be a wife. These men could have multiples of each of those categories. Sharia law is about as bad as it gets. It is not rooted in the fundamental belief of freedom that we have in America here, freedom for everyone. Raheem continues.
I want to say one thing. You found out in doing your research, and Raheem is the world's Western expert on this. They put fear in the general Muslim community. I mean, these guys are bad hombres, right? And that's why they work under the cover of darkness, or they're from that part of India that's always been hotly contested. It's really the fissure point of Islam into the Hindu, the subcontinent. It's always been dangerous. And if you talk to Muslims, they'll say, hey, man, those bros, it's the army of darkness for a reason, sir.
So you hear what Steve's saying, is they instill the fear of God into average, everyday Muslims. And again, I'm going to say it, and I know it sounds crazy to say, I've got Muslim friends. I don't really quite understand the religion. I do think the religion, in many respects, is based in violence. I don't think it's a religion of peace, much to what my friends will tell me. We can debate that all the way that we want. But I have no doubt that my Muslim friends are not terrorists, okay? They're not. But they can be victimized by terror groups, because terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, all of these places, if you don't subscribe to their radical ideology, they will kill you, no matter what your religion is, including Muslim. Now, the idea of them building communities here and this army of darkness, this is in Garland, Texas. So now I've told you, the city of Dallas is surrounded. You've got Garland to the east, Irving to the west, McKinney to the north, Plano to the northwest. These where all these communities are going. They're surrounding one of the largest markets in the world. I think when it comes to TV and radio, Dallas-Fort Worth is the fourth largest market in the country. And they're surrounding the city of Dallas. So what is their goal?
Yeah, I mean, you will remember, Steve, some of the opening scenes from The Man Who Would Be King. And they're all, the factions are fighting with one another, and they say, they mucky our waters downriver, and so on and so forth. And really, out of those tribal factional fights has emerged this really hardline group that now boast a Western headquarters in Garland, Texas. That is something that I think should put the fear into the hearts of ordinary people, because it was the fact that these groups, the Deobandi Muslim groups that go to these Tablighi Jamaat centers, that were not being tracked, were not being traced, were not being followed up. And God bless him, the late Phil Haney was all over this back in the day.
Yes,
that
hero.
led to things like San Bernardino happening, because everybody took their eyes off the ball.
So this is happening in Garland. The Texas Attorney General has said many of these communities, over my dead body, they literally talk openly about engaging in Sharia law in their own community and not paying attention to the rule of law in Texas, basically ignoring our own rules of laws in these communities, making these little pockets, these Muslim sanctuaries, as they call them. It's not what I think they are. So Attorney General Ken Paxton said he's going to fight back on it all. Now, how bad is the thinking of some of these imams? I'm going to play you some of them so you can hear for yourself that I'm not just making this stuff up. Before we get to that, I want to tell you about my friends over at NFN8. This is a great company. They've industrialized Bitcoin mining. They've got these giant warehouses. They're buying the electricity cheap, and you can invest with them. And contractually, you can lock into up to 20% annualized interest paid monthly. You understand what this means. 20% on your investment paid monthly. It is a phenomenal deal. I invested with them, a sizable chunk. I am now considering investing more with them. So many of Stinchfield's Army members have taken NFN8 up. NFN8, for me, has lived up to its promises. For everybody that I've sent their direction, so far they have lived up to their promises. So I would urge you to give them a call if the idea of 20% interest annualized on your money makes sense to you, and getting paid that interest monthly, direct deposited into your account. Get in touch with them. Get20now.com. Get20now.com. My man Corey, he's one of the principals in this business. He will call you directly. Make sure you take his phone call. He is very busy. A lot of people taking them up on this offer. But again, 20% interest annualized, man. This is a great, great deal. I'm not sure how long it will last. Get20now.com. That's get20now.com. All right. So you believe me. This is an imam that is explaining just how few rights women have inside these Sharia law communities.
Female slaves as having a secondary status, even below this, and that their consent did not matter in this relationship. They were fully owned. Mm-hmm. And the master had the right to all of the women. In essence, generally in classical Islamic thought, it is taken for granted that a Muslim man can have up to 4 wives at once. And in addition to the 4 wives, he can have an unlimited number of concubines, which refer to women who are basically have slave status.
We are now in 2025. There is no woman out there that should have slave status, and certainly not in the United States of America. But my prediction is many of these communities that are trying to engage in Sharia law will subscribe to this practice, because it is undisputably written in Sharia law that this is widely acceptable. They will try to do this. Do you want this in your community? What does this mean for our schools? What does it mean for our children? What happens when they start growing these communities and we start getting pushed out? They say openly they want everyone in America to subscribe to this ideology by hook or by crook.
When they are owned by her master, a woman owned by her master has to freely give herself to the master. The master has the right to have sexual relations with her as though she were one of his wives. The believers are those who guard their private parts except from their wives and what their right hands possess. But curiously enough, while this is often interpreted to mean that a man could have sexual relations with his female slaves, it is never interpreted to mean that a woman could have sexual relations with her male slaves.
You see how they openly admit the sexism behind all this, but it's even worse than that. I actually believe it's criminal. You can't have slaves in America today. We do know that they do exist at many levels. Of course, there are sex slaves in America today. The sex industry is booming. We also know there are labor slaves, especially child slaves working in garment factories across America. But did you know that in some households in America, I will promise you, there is a Muslim man practicing Sharia law that has concubines and looks at those women as slaves. Again, this is not something we need to embrace. So when Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says he's going to push back on this, you better believe he better. And we better have the people of Texas standing up and say, no, we do not want these communities in our Texas, no matter how bright and beautiful they make these communities look. This is not what we want. I'm going to play another video for you that I saw that was focusing on these communities. I believe this community just outside of Dallas as well.
Everybody is Muslim here. Names have been chosen on Muslim scientists of the golden era of Islam. So this is the masjid, mashallah. They have the Salam Masjid here.
Mashallah, pura Musliman area.
Private park. All right, I can't play here. Mashallah written on all of them. Allah Muhammad. Oh my God, this one is a real beauty. This is Muslims, right? Medina Villas, I knew it. They're Muslim. The masjid is right next door. You just walk to the masjid, mashallah. That's how easy it is here. Subhanallah, in America, in the United States. Welcome to Irving, Texas, and we are entering a very interesting community, a community made up of Muslims, a community where the street names are all Muslims. This is the Valencia State's Mahmoud Egal Drive. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen, only in Dallas, Texas, where you will see these homes where not even the people inside are Muslim, but actually the name of the streets are Muslim.
You see, they come from all over the place to flood these communities. Now, I don't mind if there's one street with a Muslim name on it, okay? I live in Dallas. It's a melting pot city. I don't mind that we have Hispanic name streets. I don't mind that we've got regular name streets. But I don't want all my streets to be all Hispanic names or all Muslim names or all Asian names, because I want the streets to represent the community. Now, a community that should be vibrant, that is not ostracizing other religions. Clearly, in these communities, they do not want Christians there. Clearly, there is a reason they are flocking here together, and they will continue to grow until they ultimately take over. I'll play more of this because, honestly, it's pretty fascinating listening to him explain how these communities are set up.
Solid Drive, subhanallah. Check out these homes. We are looking at these homes here in Irving, Texas. There's another brother. Assalamu alaikum, brother. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. This is ideal life for Muslims, where you can say salam to everybody. Subhanallah. Amal Saleh Drive and Salma Jamil Court. I've never seen a place like this before. So in America, usually you have, Christian names, white names, Western names of streets, Jackson Street, Edward Street, John Street. This is the playground for your Muslim kids. They can play here. Now check this out.
Does anybody else see a problem with this? Because I do. I see a really, really, really big problem with this. And something's got to give. And it's got to be stopped, and they're popping up all over the place. I mean, this video here is 20-something minutes long. I'll just go through little parts of it.
Where is the key? I don't know where it is.
Oh, it's off. Yeah, right here. Whether you should get one, inshallah, yeah? Nice to meet you, brother. So, brother, this is a Muslim community?
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
So, name of the street, Salma.
One lady here, I don't know if she come outside, back again.
Okay. So, everybody is Muslim here, huh?
Oh, it's good.
Everybody, huh?
All
MashaAllah.
Right, all right.
Subhanallah. And they have a masjid here too, huh?
Yeah, I know. I see him, the masjid. Oh,
Muslim?
I'm from the Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. MashaAllah.
Yeah, I'm still here. It's a long time in University. I came in here. I'm truck driver.
Okay, nice.
2 years experience.
MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Come in here, Irving, Grand Prairie, 15, I came here. I'm not leaving, never.
Never leaving, he says. Why Texas? Well, we know Texas is the land of the free. And I think they think that they're going to be allowed to just expand these communities in Texas when we're really going to be keeping a massive, massive, massive eye on them. Here's more.
सही रियल एस्टेट का नहीं कार का अच्छा माशाल्लाह वेरी नाइस हाँ ये मैंने पहली दफा देखा सारे नाम गलियों के ये मुसलमान हैं कभी ऐसा मैंने देखा.
So this too is what happens with many other immigrant communities where they refuse to assimilate into the country where they immigrate to, refuse to learn the language. This guy obviously, I guess, doesn't speak English. Well, the president of Pakistan came in to talk about the need for all of this stuff.
The world to be there. My father came to the US only once, and when he went back, he wrote a pamphlet that the resurgence of Islam can take place from the US. But that's what he said in '83. But I still believe it can happen. You know, looking at all your faces and the number of masajid which has increased so much. In '73, the only woman I knew who would do hijab was Professor Anis Ahmed's wife. Subhanallah. You know, probably some of you would know Professor Khurshid's brother. He is the vice chancellor of a university in Islamabad. Rafa University. No. Only his wife. And now I come here. It's such a pleasure to see those children whose mothers never did hijab coming back to an Islamic ideal.
So, I guess they're putting the hijabs back on here in the United States. You know, you want to wear a hijab, fine. But this idea of moving these communities around and moving them in, to me, this should be a wake-up call, as Raheem Kassam had points out, especially with the idea of some of these very dark groups, the Army of Darkness. That does not sound good. Does not sound like somebody that I want near me. I'm going to talk about what's going on with Tesla. Over the weekend, my son is turning 16 in a couple months. He talked me into buying him a Tesla. I'm going to tell you about my experience with Tesla. It was pretty interesting, to say the least, including confronting protesters. We're going to go through that in just a moment. But before we do that, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. EnergizedHealth.com. I feel like I'm in great shape at 56 years old. I really do. I'm in great shape. One of the reasons I'm in great shape is because of intercellular hydration and this program from Energized Health that had me lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I didn't even really work at it. I really didn't. Change the way I eat a little bit, change how I hydrate myself, and this is important. There's science behind it, and that's the most important. It's simple, but it's also scientific. So I urge you to check out what intercellular hydration can do for you. Don't use these weight loss medications. Lose body fat. Gain muscle mass. That's the key. My testosterone went up. My cholesterol went down. I had just about everything move in the right direction on Energized Health. So again, go to energizedhealth.com/Grant. Learn about cellular hydration. There's a master class on there as well. I promise you get with these guys. There's individual coaching, recipes. There's Zoom calls. You name it. The tools are there for you to succeed. energizedhealth.com/Grant. Make sure you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. Okay. So I go to the Tesla dealership to buy my son a Tesla for his 16th birthday. I never would have bought a Tesla 2 years ago. Not a fan of electric cars. Not for me. I drive further. It actually may make sense for someone just driving around town. The more I've learned about them, electric cars were never my thing. I always looked at them, too, as a symbol of the left, but boy, now has Tesla flipped. Tesla is now a symbol of the right, which is why I was proud to buy one for my son. But I got into this debate about what terrorism is. You know, they're going through and they're scratching the doors of terrorists. They're Molotov cocktailing Cybertrucks, and they're just destroying everything. So I got in this little debate with the protesters about what is terrorism. I'll play the video that I posted on social media on Stinchfield 1776. Here it goes. All right, so we're at the Tesla dealership. What did we just do, buddy?
Get a Tesla.
You better believe it. For what?
For my 16th birthday.
Hell yeah. Guess what we just bought?
What? A Tesla.
A Tesla.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Look at that. These people not happy about it at all. Yeah, not trash at all, baby. What does your sign say? Send us to Mars. Okay.
let's do that.
Okay. What's with the masks?
It's called a
It's because I don't want you identifying me.
Okay. Well, so I'm bold, and I believe in what I believe. You guys apparently
You're on the
not.
government side.
Okay.
You're on the government side. They're not going to come after you.
Anybody? So you know what's amazing? He says you're on the government side. Now, if you're on the government side, wouldn't I want Elon Musk to grow the size of government, not cut the size of government? How are you on the government side when literally you're cutting government? Waste, fraud, and abuse, by the way. But I'm also not on the government side. I answered his question. That knows me, brother, will tell you I'm on the people's side, man. Not the government side, the
and
people's
protest
side.
a
But
billionaire
here's what I
taking over
want.
our government.
A government buying for the people.
Yes,
And the deep state
yes,
out.
agreed. Hold on.
Okay.
No. He's
Thank
agreed.
you. What's your name, by the way?
Don't worry about it.
Have you seen the video of people keying Teslas?
Is that terrorism?
No,
I
not
think-
the Tesla.
Do you think it's right to key Teslas?
No.
I don't think
we don't think it's right to
propaganda is
destroy
right
someone's
generally.
property.
All right,
That's
thank
not
you.
terrorism.
Can you define terrorism?
Yes.
Again?
Yes, terrorism is the use of violence or destruction or intimidation for a political gain.
Whether it's political or not has nothing to do with
The
terrorism.
He made it
definition of-
political when he got in our government.
These people back here, not so happy. But these people,
We love America, man.
never come, baby.
We wanted to come and make a statement because you know what? We love this country. I have family that have died for this country since the American Revolution.
Tesla dealership, buddy, how cool is it?
It's very cool place.
You're going to love it.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
These people, not so much. So, I actually had fun with him out there. My son says, Dad, they get so angry they can't have a conversation. I said, well, that's typical of liberals, buddy. It's why we go out there and interview them and talk to them. But there were some great patriots there. You notice the smiles on their faces, all having fun. They're not angry. They weren't even angry at the protesters because we understand that people have a right to protest. What they don't have a right to do is destroy people's property. They don't have a right to burn down Tesla dealerships. They don't have a right to key your vehicle just because Elon Musk made it. Now, the definition of terrorism, this is why I call these people domestic terrorism. Now, I didn't see any people being violent at the protest outside of the Plano, Texas Tesla dealership. But I have seen people be violent. And those people that are destroying property, I do call them domestic terrorists because what do they want ultimately? They want Elon Musk to step down. That is a political maneuver. They think they will politically gain if Elon Musk is forced to resign or gets kicked out of office. So what they're doing is trying to get Elon to force him out. Oh, I'll say, uncle, I'll stop. If you stop, if I leave Donald Trump and Doge, you'll stop burning Teslas and keying them. Okay, that's domestic terrorism. In fact, she asked me, what is terrorism? So I've got the definition here. Terrorism, in its broadest sense, is, quote, the use of violence or threat of violence to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or government in pursuit of political or ideological goals. What do you think they're doing here? That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to force an ideological goal on us by putting so much violent pressure and intimidation on us that we will roll over and say no. But here's where they underestimate us. And they have since the Black Lives Matter movement. They have since the Antifa movement. They have since the beginning of time. Strong Americans going all the way back, as you heard the one gentleman say, to the Revolutionary War. We don't roll over. And we don't say, uncle, you're going to put pressure on us. It only makes us work harder. Now, they think they're hurting business at Tesla. So that video I showed you was Saturday. Then Sunday, I show up to pick up the Tesla with my son. I'm amazed at how many people are buying Teslas. Now, you pick them up the next day, by the way, for the most part. Most of the models are in stock. You pick them up the next day. It is such a cool experience. There's like, you know, the photo area where, when you go into to a big event or a Hollywood site and they've got the place where you would take the pictures. They have that. They have rock music blaring and it's kind of a hip scene. Like it feels almost like an Apple store for electric vehicles, and now conservatives, because it has totally flipped. So I'm going to show you the video I shot to explain to you and show the liberals they're not having an effect on business at Tesla.
Oh, I'm going to tell you something. If these lunatic anti-Elon, anti-Tesla protesters think they're having an effect, they're not. Look at this. This is the line to pick up Tesla cars. We are in Plano, Texas. This, folks, are all the cars for pickup today, okay? So, no effect. These protesters are lunatics. They're idiots, great patriots in America, buying great cars. And isn't it crazy how it flipped? These cars used to be a signal for the environmental leftists. Now, patriots like us picking them up. You keep rocking, Elon. Make America great again.
Doesn't get any better than that. The garage was filled with cars to be picked up on the same day. How many are in there? 13, 12, 24. There's got to be 36 cars at least. Now, that's one dealership in one area of a city. It was in Plano, Texas, off 75 and Parker Road. One dealership in one spot across the country, and you had at least 3-4 dozen vehicles being picked up that day and a line of people picking them up. So I don't think he's hurting business. I really don't. But this is what they want to do. They want to hurt our business.
Take a look at this. This is video from the victim's Tesla camera. It shows a green car pulling up to a Tesla on busy Route 66, then swerving in front to box the Tesla in. The driver then walks over to the 61-year-old woman in the Tesla and reportedly starts hitting her while she's sitting behind the wheel. At one point, the woman says she bit the man's hand. Moments later, the passenger of the green car appears to walk over and pull the attacker away. They finally get back in their car and drive off. We spoke to the victim today, who said she was terrified and can't understand why anyone would do this.
I was just stunned, and I wished that I would have had someone with me that would have protected me. I'm just appalled. I didn't buy my car for a political statement. I bought my car because it's really fun to drive, and my politics have nothing to do with that. And I'm ashamed of our society and what they're doing.
She buys the car because it's a fun car to drive. And yet some lunatic is stopping her in the middle of the road, banging on her window. Frightening. I carry a firearm everywhere I go. You don't want to be coming up to my window banging on the window. Firearm or not, I would assume that I would show restraint until the point I thought he was going to break the window and try to choke me. This is not a game they want to fool around with. Now, this didn't happen in Texas. You don't want to play this game in Texas. People are armed in this state. And they're going up and they're confronting people for no reason because they bought a Tesla. Do you understand, Democrats, of what lunatics you are coming off as? Incomprehensible, no common sense, lunatics. I'll play the end of the story.
The victim, along with the other Tesla owner who received a threatening note and text, have both now signed up for a gun safety course at a gun range north of Flagstaff. They tell us they don't feel safe right now and want to be able to protect themselves.
Amen. It's the great equalizer, baby. Get trained with a firearm. Use it anytime you feel that your life or body is in danger, okay? That's when you're well within your rights to use it. The moment you feel like you are being threatened and in danger and your life is going to be taken or seriously injured. But this is what we're up against? I mean, seriously. People like this?
There should be an effigy on every street corner. We're New Yorkers. Let's protest like New Yorkers. This maggot motherfucker hates us. He hates us. Let's hang him high and make pictures. It's the only thing.
What a disgusting human being. Has President Trump hanging by a chain, okay? Now, it's a cardboard cutout for those of you that are listening on the podcast. But this woman is so angry that she is going to literally hang Donald Trump by a chain on the streets in New York to try to get what? Get us to come to her side, somehow realize that we're wrong and she's right? This is not the way to do it.
That gets that piece of shit, that lardon sitting and shitting in our White House. Let's hang this high. Who wants to hang this effigy?
You know, she's talking about Donald Trump's appearance. This is one nasty, ugly woman, both physically and mentally. Her attitude, she is an ugly, ugly woman. She don't have any business making fun of Donald Trump's looks. I will tell you that much.
Who wants to? We're New York. We're New Yorkers.
Could you imagine being married to that woman? Ugh. The nag that she would be. My Lord. What, doesn't you have something better to do? Go occupy yourself a freaking cubicle, lady. Because walking around in the streets in Upper Manhattan, I don't think is going to do you well. Except it gets you on TV on here and then gets me to blast you for your lunacy. But there's a reason why the Democrats' polls are absolutely failing. Okay? And I mean totally, totally failing. I'm gonna play you how bad it is. But first, folks, let me tell you about Patriot Mobile. This is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. 972-PATRIOT is the number. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service. That's a great savings. They are literally investing in not only programs like this, but nonprofits that support conservative causes like free speech, our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, you name it. They are right there when it comes to pushing back against Planned Parenthood. I love the folks at Patriot Mobile. They do an amazing, amazing job. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service. If you're not changing today, you are still taking part in funding the woke ideology of the left, and that's what the big three cell phone companies are. So again, call them at 972-PATRIOT. Tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. Use that promo code GRANT for a free month service. You're not going to regret it, I promise you. All right. So I told you I'd play you these polls. Let me see here. This is Face the Nation. Okay. Here we go. I got to turn my phone off here. Face the Nation has the polls out about where Donald Trump is, no matter what these protesters are doing.
This is a story about balance, and the things that are going well in the public mind for him is his handling of immigration, which is still net positive, and his deportation program is still net positive and popular. This is a story about...
You see, let me pull this up. You see the numbers? 58% approve of Donald Trump's program to deport immigrants that are here illegally. 58%. And just about every program that he has in place, Donald Trump is on the positive side of this. The Democrats are reeling. They have nothing right now. And the fact that the Sunday morning talk shows are reporting this, God bless them. I'm grateful that they are. I do want to do a little, yes, I was going to say, how do I touch on the Signal Gate, which I really think is a big nothing burger now at this point. The Democrats are just glomming onto it. They're asking for the resignations of Hegseth and Gabbard and Ratcliffe and all of the others. So my point to this is they're just using it to come after President Trump's disruptors. And that's what these people are. It's not going to work. But I thought I'd do body language on the Real America's Voice show last Friday, because that's when we do our body language. Every night, 6 p.m., Real America's Voice show. Make sure you tune in. Subscribe to the podcast right now, folks, too, if you're listening. Hit the subscribe button on Rumble. Hit the like and subscribe button as well. It's helpful. But I had Greg Hartley on to talk about body language. And I'm going to play it as we go through some of the clips of the week related to Signalgate, and I found it quite fascinating. Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday, and you know what that means. Our favorite segment of the week, body language, baby. I want to bring in host of the Behavior Panel on YouTube and former military interrogator. He is body language and behavior expert. Our man Greg Hartley is here. Greg, welcome to the program.
Good to see you, Grant.
All right, Greg. Signalgate was all the talk about, this app and the chat with the bombing of the Houthis. Was it classified? Was it not classified? All the arguments. So I figure we'll go through some of this body language. Let's start off with one of the first sound bites to come out of this right after this story dropped, which is Pete Hegseth on the tarmac going after Jeffrey Goldberg, the political hack that wrote this story.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does.
Now, Greg, for context, early on I criticized the response. It should have just been, we really screwed this up. Thank you for not releasing the information. Literally, that's all I would have liked to have seen him say. But he's got a lot of body language going on here, too. So I thought I'd let you lay it out for us.
Well, 100% agree. This is at the very least an OPSEC violation, and they should have said, hey, we made a mistake. The regulations will apply, then we'll investigate. I agree with you 100% there. What he does, however, is when he first starts off, he avoids the question by using something I call chaff and redirect. I've seen it so many times, where he spews out information that's not related until he gets to a point where he can take to a point that he wants, which is all the positive things about the warfighters. You can tell when he's animated. Look at that bouncing. He's animated, and he's telling you what he thinks as he punctuates the things about Goldberg he hates. He finds a thin target, goes after him, and then shifts to a positive message and leans in and starts to deliver the positive message. Chaff and redirect.
What is the leaning in back and forth? Because it looks to be, you've talked to me about the elephant that sways, but this doesn't look like that to me. Am I? Yeah, exactly.
It isn't. It's punctuation. No, this leaning in is punctuation. And bouncing is punctuation. When he hits a point where he's on Goldberg, and he sees him as a thin target, so it's easy for him to punctuate that way. And he does that gravity-defying move and bounces over. But then he looks at him. This is almost, if somebody did this to you, you would consider this browbeating, and this is browbeating.
Yeah. I want people to remember, too, Pete Hegseth for a long time was like me. He was a flamethrower on TV. I mean, so his first reaction is going to be to throw bombs, right? And now you're in a little different spot. I think he's going to learn some lessons through this. I think the whole messaging on this I wasn't really all that happy with. Let's play Jeffrey Goldberg, though. This is the guy who was so-called accidentally put in a signal chat. I'm not even sure that's the case yet. I'd like to know if this was a setup job. But here's Jeffrey Goldberg on MSNBC.
I'm going to be responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports.
This ass clown makes me so mad because he says he's not going to release it, and then he goes and releases it the very next day. But your thoughts there, Greg?
Didn't believe him from the moment he started talking, because he does some downright eye accessing. He eye blocks where he's not looking at you, but he does what we would call a confirmation glance or a look for approval. Watch him look out from under his own eyelid over to see if how the person's responding to it, because that's the message he came to deliver. And so he's going to make it generic enough to make it look like I'm not going to tell you anything and then release the next day. I didn't believe it from the first part. Just look at it.
All right, interesting. That's the glare underneath looking down. It's great stuff.
Yep.
All right, this is after Goldberg releases the full chat. Now, I will say this. The administration basically egged him into doing. They kept attacking. They just should have taken responsibility, and they egged him to release it and made this a story forever. They could have thanked him for not releasing it, and then if he released it, he would have looked like a real jerk. Instead, they egged him on to release it, and he does. Let's roll this. This is Pete Hegseth landing in Hawaii after the chat has been released.
Here to do. Nobody's texting war plans. Well, I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
Greg, you were a military interrogator. He's right on that. But to a reasonable person, when you're talking about Tomahawk missiles, at what time, looking at a guy going into the house and the girlfriend's house, and it all looks like what we lay people would call war plans. I don't know it was a great argument, but your thoughts on the body language here.
Well, just for a second, take the greatest generation. Every one of them would say loose lips sink ships. Every one of them would tell you that. And that's OPSEC, and that's an OPSEC violation at the very least. I'm not going to defend that. It's funny because it almost feels like the scene from Animal House when they're being drawn in to shut down the fraternity, and he's trying to say, well, we did do this, and we did do that, and we did do this. So you can see he's animated. He's trying to say, he's parsing words. He doesn't have a legs down. He does the same thing he does chaff and redirect. I agree with you. They should have just said, hey, we made a mistake, and we'll fix it.
What would you tell them? Hey, we made a mistake and fix it. Is there something you could tell them when it comes to body language? Do you tell people, hey, try to stay more still or do the punctuation? How do you coach on that?
Well, the first thing is the more you move, the less powerful you look. If you notice when a person, you always say this about Trump, when he's standing there, people revolve around him. He doesn't move around a lot, and he stands more quiet and still. People who move less are perceived to be more powerful. All this movement, and he's a young guy for, in this world that he's in, so he looks a lot less strong by doing all the animated movement. I would suggest him he uses his hands, and he uses that to illustrate his point and drive his thing instead of bouncing around so much, because it's hard to believe as much.
Yeah, it is interesting. And when you think about Trump, even when he walks into a room, he comes in very slowly and he looks around and he's not bouncing and waving and all that stuff. Just, he might do one of those, but it's slow. And, clearly you're on to something here. Let me play one more. I know we're running up on the clock, but I got to get this in. This is at the National Security hearing. Representative Gomez asked Tulsi Gabbard about Pete Hegseth's drinking habits. This was totally out of line, but watch.
To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
All right,
do you want to telegraph the answer you want to hear? Do you have knowledge of knowing? I mean, the sentence is structured such a way that you better say no. And look at the amusement in her face. Her eyes are kind of smiling a little bit, and her mouth looks like she's about to break into a smile. So she's amused by the question, I think, as much as anything.
Well, and then after that, John Ratcliffe literally blasted him for that. Let's play that real quick. We can do it.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. Do you want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time.
I'm glad I played it, Greg. Take it away.
You're really going to try to paint a CIA director in a corner with words? Not really a smart move. And it's funny because you see that skeptical brow rise and then him open the whole can and go after him and start to browbeat, put his brow down and start attacking. And the guy's panicking and using all the regulators, all the control of conversation moves in the world to try to quiet the director, and it doesn't work.
In some respects, I'm surprised. You see John Ratcliffe has his glasses on. He's talking over it. If people watch me on the show, I take off my glasses all the time, especially when I get animated. I'm shocked he didn't actually take off the glasses to lean in.
It's a power move, actually, to look over your glasses and down your nose at someone. So I'm not surprised. It actually is pretty powerful if you do it to people.
You're right. When I worked for my father in the construction business, that's how he used to look at me from behind his desk. You really screwed this one up, kid, and he'd have us looking like
exactly.
that. So, anyway, Greg Hartley, it's great having you on. Thank you.
Great.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us today. I love watching Greg Hartley, by the way. Such useful advice. If you are in business, you need to take his advice because he shows you what not to do in a meeting or a negotiation, maybe what to do. What are some of the power moves, like looking down the glasses? All of it, you can take away so many things that can be useful inside business. It's one of the reasons why I find it a very, very entertaining segment and a very useful segment. Don't forget the website, GrantStinchfield.com, GrantStinchfield.com. And my friends over at the Wellness Company, I don't want to forget about them. They do such a great job. I want you folks to be safe. This is the Wellness Company kit, okay? I want you to get one of these. Inside it has 8 of the most important prescription medications you can get. Amoxicillin in here. You got ivermectin in here. You got a whole slew of other prescription medications in here that could ultimately save a life. We could see a terrorist attack, natural disaster, drugstores down, drug shortages. If you don't have drugs that can save your life on hand, well then, you know what? You're going to be behind the 8 ball. And quite frankly, you're going to be sick, and if not die. I know that sounds dramatic, but it is true. So if you want to save a life, if you want to keep your family from getting sick, get one of these kits. twc.health/grant. That's twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, again, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Real America's Voice. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you then.